All right, everybody, that's back for episode 2. We're glad you're here. I will tell you, hearing this intro going into this, I'm probably going to sound different than what it's fixing to cut to because we actually are recording this intro after we recorded the episode, and I've had some audio changes in my studio. So this probably sounds a little different. I hope it sounds better.
Yeah, we recorded the episode, and I'm gonna tell you, it's definitely worth sticking around and listening to this full episode. One thing that we have been doing here recently with the multiple part episodes is we'll record the whole thing, whether that be 2 hours or 3 hours long, and then we'll go back and add an intro to it and an outro. Which that's probably going to change here soon, but for right now, that's how we're having to do it, just because of our schedules.
And we're doing it so that we can drop the entire episode at one time on Patreon, so whoever is
Correct.
on there, they can listen to the entire episode right when it drops instead of having to wait for the weekly, bi-weekly episode drops. So pretty much without any further ado, Scott, I mean, if you're ready, we'll go ahead and start. Let's roll episode 2. Let it play.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Hello, I'm Brent.
And I'm Scott.
And this
is Strange Embers.
Zach, Addie, Jack, the survivalists that stayed there, that started cleaning the streets, that started working on the French Quarter after the hurricane, they all looked at all of these people the same way that military looked at military deserters, basically. They looked at them as being deserters, that they left. They had no respect for them. They hated it. They didn't like them coming back. They felt like when they left, they abandoned it and this place was theirs now. And now it was being taken back away. And they also hated that this meant that this dystopian paradise for them is coming to an end. That the survivalist party that they had been living was almost over. And that rent was about to be due again. Bills were going to be coming back. Modern life is fast approaching. So by the end of October, they were having to return back to their jobs. Lana was demanding that Zach now resume being a parent. He had been missing all this time as far as Lana's concerned. She hadn't heard from him. She had no idea. She didn't know if he was alive, if he was lost to the storm, anything. So after everything started returning back, that's when she found out that, yeah, Zach's still alive. Zach's still here. You know, it's time to carry on with life. It's time for you to be a parent again. When Lana came back to New Orleans, she found out Zach was alive. She took a bat in hand over to their apartment and started beating on the door with the bat. Zach wasn't home. Addie was. Addie did not get up and go answer the door. All Addie did was call and tell Zach that Lana's over here beating on the door with a bat. When Addie told Zach about Lana being there, Zach called Lana. They spoke, and he asked to meet up with her and see the kids. Lana immediately said no, she's not bringing the kids. He needed to be back around and helping with the money, helping raise the kids. And he stated back to her, so what you're telling me is I have to pay you to be able to see my kids now? And she said, no, you never, it's not like that.
Well, that's what it seems like.
She said, but you got to help raise them. And Lana also said, if you're going to be seeing the kids, I have to meet Addie. The kids are not going to be over there if I don't meet Addie. If she's going to be their stepmother, I have to meet her. Zach got mad at this, and he told her, when you left me in Germany and you came back here and you've been with your boyfriend ever since then with the kids, and I've never even got to meet him. That's where Lana just turned. They were at a bar talking. Lana turned, pointed at the other end of the bar and said, "There he is. He's sitting at the end of the bar. Go meet him." Zach got mad and got loud and said, "I have no desire to meet the man that took my wife." After this interaction, Zach goes back. He talks to Addie about what Lana said and that she wants to meet her. Addie said yes. Addie was super excited. She said, "Yes, I want to meet Lana. Yeah, I want to meet the kids." She gets Jack. That's the friend they met during Katrina and they stayed with. She gets Jack to take her to Walmart because she wants to purchase clothes for the kids. She goes with Jack to Walmart. And while she's at Walmart with Jack to purchase clothing, she makes the comment to Jack that she thinks that she'll have Zach's baby as well. Jack did not comment back to this, but he thought in his mind, you're not a mother. He knows the way Addie is. He knew the reputation she had. He's been around her. He's like, that's not going to be good. They find out very, very soon that Jack is absolutely correct. When they went to go meet Lana, Addie started sulking. They rented a car, drove over to go meet her. She refused to get out of the car to meet Lana. She stayed in the car the entire time, said nothing to the kids. Absolutely 180 from what she was saying before.
So was this girl ever psychiatrically evaluated?
If she was, I didn't come across that. And I'm sure that if she was, that
it would have been written in the book.
Ethan would have found that. Ethan Brown. Addie even had very little to do with Jackson and Lily. Whenever Jackson and Lily would come over to the apartment to be with Zach, Addie would leave and she would go bar hopping and go out drinking while they were there. When Addie would come back home after her bar hopping trip while the kids were there, she would immediately come back into the apartment and go lock herself in the bedroom with Zach. And that's it. That's all the interaction that she would have with the kids.
That girl's got problems, brother.
The kids even told Lana that Addie didn't like them, that she wouldn't be around them. You know, she went and hid, or she would stay gone and just go get drunk and all while they were there. By the end of November, Addie just went full cold and resentful to the kids, to Zach if the kids were there. And she told Zach that if the kids were coming over, that he's got to go rent a hotel room and they can go stay there. The kids aren't coming back over. He reluctantly agreed to it, and that was the life that they lived at that point. When the kids were coming over, he would go rent rooms. They would stay at hotel rooms. They would stay with friends, stuff like that, but Addie wasn't going to be around them. Friends of Zach and Addie both could see that this bubble that they had lived in during Katrina, it was beginning to pop. And that the life that they fell in love with was over. And she wanted it back. She wanted Zach all to herself, just like it was during the Katrina time. Even Zach, he wanted her back. The Addie that he had, that he referred to as the goddess of the French Quarter. He wanted her back. She wasn't the same now that their, life is actually coming back into normality. But all of that was over. So every trip that the kids came over for, like another crack, was exposing itself of the way that this is starting to shatter. Christmas Day 2005, Zach, Addie, and Squirrel all decided to have a Katrina Christmas party to kind of relive the good old days for them. Squirrel was still recovering from a car accident that he had had. After a long day, this Christmas Day of drinking, reminiscing about the storm, and all of them just living it up together, Squirrel made plans for New Year's Eve to go spend that with Zach and Addie as well. Addie got a job at a small bar. Zach got a delivery job at Matisse's, is a grocery store. After a very short time of him having this delivery job, he started getting his self-confidence back again because he felt like he was the king of New Orleans. Because of this delivery job and him being out and about, now everybody knew Zach.
Narcissistic behaviors.
The tourist season of this time was in full swing as well, and the tips were plentiful. And all of the extra cash in the early spring of 2006, Zach and Addie went on a drinking and drug spree with all of the extra money from tips. A lot of these would end in Addie having one of her spells and lashing out at everyone. Whenever she, just like before, whenever she would have any of these, she would have, nobody was safe. Ever, but anybody was fair game for her. She would go off on everybody. And after one of these spells that she had at a bar that they were at, Zach, Addie, and one of their friends, Addie went off on both of them, and then she left the bar walking. Zach and a friend, they went looking for her, and Zach did find her down by the water, took her back home. This friend texted Zach after a little while and said that Addie was being such a bitch. She had Zach's phone and responded back to the friend saying, "I read your message." And the kind of some of the stuff like she would lash out at, she would know. She knew where the open wounds were, and she knew how to freaking pour salt all in them. So she messaged back and she said, "I read your message." And after that, she messaged again and said, "Your entire life is a waste." I know some of this stuff, like some of these things that were said and all, they don't really sound like too bad. But like I said, she knew where open wounds were on people, especially the people she knew, and she knew exactly the things to say to them that cut. He responded back to Addie and said that he was done with it. She has to change or he's walking away. He's done. He can't take it anymore. A few hours later, after this message came from them, he got a call from Zach. And Zach told him, "I'm out of here." He said, "I'm hopping on a train. I'm going to Oregon to see my dad." Zach told him that after he found Addie and they got back to the apartment, that they had a knockdown fight. He is not willing to take Addie's abuse anymore, that he needs a long, maybe even a permanent break from her and New Orleans. Shortly after that phone call with Zach, he got another phone call from Addie. They had a fight and that it had turned physical. That neither one of them remembered what happened, but Addie woke up and has bruises on her arms, and Zach left to go to Oregon. After a few weeks of being back in Oregon, it was said that while he was in Oregon that he missed Addie terribly, but he had enough of everything. But even after a few weeks, he started making plans to go back. And the big kicker that was bringing him back was he got a phone call from Lana. She didn't know that he left. He didn't tell her. He didn't tell the kids he was leaving. Nothing. He's just disappeared for a couple weeks. She found out, and she was on the phone with him now, telling him he better get back to the city. He has kids to be with, and he needs to be here. Lana also told him that she's tired of having to lie to the kids, and that she's not going to do it anymore. That during Katrina, she didn't even know if he was alive anymore. She lied to the kids, telling them that he was helping to heal the city, that he was working with the Red Cross, that he was out helping rebuild the levees, all of these things. And she says she's done with it and she's not going to do it anymore. Addie was also miserable while Zach was gone, and she rarely even left the apartment while he was gone. So their friend really wanted Zach and Addie to work out, and he bought a plane ticket for Zach to come back to New Orleans. So Zach got on a plane and flew back. Immediately, he was reunited with Addie, and they didn't leave the apartment for about 3 days. It was said that their love for each other was so strong and so intense. Their anger for each other was just as equal. That it could go from this.
We're just talking just a complete toxic relationship in general.
By all means.
Yeah.
So by that spring, they went right back to the normal of what normal was at this point. Out drinking, Addie having one of her spells, and do it again. Zach and Addie's friend even told them that they needed to spend some time apart, figure themselves out, and, try to make things better. Did they listen to any of the advice from anybody? No. They didn't spend any time apart. They didn't do anything. It just turned into daily breakups and remending over and over. Squirrel even remembered Zach moving all of his stuff over to his place at one point. Now remember, Zach is delivering groceries. His bicycle was equipped with these metal carrier baskets. These large carrier baskets.
Like just a grocery basket for a bicycle.
Probably.
Yeah.
And it had gotten to the point where they called that Zach's moving vehicle, because he would put his stuff in it and take it to Squirrel's or take it to Jack's or whatever, just back and forth. He had even made a little corner in one of the rooms of Squirrel's house, of apartment. Zach would go to work his shift, pick up a 12-pack of beer on the way home. Him and Squirrel would drink and smoke weed, and then just do the whole cycle over again. Between that and Addie would take him back. He would go be with Addie, have a fight, go to Squirrel's, get drunk, get high, go back to Addie. Just continuous cycle. She would kick him out, chase him down, tell him she loves him, she wants him back. He would go back. He would kick her out, chase her down. I love you. She would come back. That summer was nothing but just fights, makeups, drinking, and drugs. That was that entire summer. It's all they did. They would split up for about 2 days and get back together. The friends of Zach and Addie even said at one point in time, it got down to, it seemed like they would break up about every 8 hours and then get back together. So you could imagine if you was hanging out with them.
Literally became a daily thing.
Yes. By mid-August, it had gotten so bad that on August the 14th, they got in a fight. Addie left. She had a gun that she kept unloaded when she very first moved to New Orleans. So they got in a fight. Addie left with her gun in her hand. She got into a shouting match with a man out in the street and down in the French Quarter, pointed the gun at him. He got his phone, was calling the cops. When he did that, Addie took off. He followed her. She goes back to the apartment, goes inside the apartment, puts the gun up, changes into some sleep clothes, and proceeds to act like she's never left. The cops show up at the apartment with said guy that got gun pulled on him. He identifies her. The cops go in. They find the gun that was there. They also found some weed and some pipes. And from there, she was arrested. Zach said he was not bailing her out. She can sit in jail. So Addie begged and convinced several of their friends to pull some money together and bail her out, and that's what they did. Obviously, her and Zach was immediately back together. By September the 28th, another fight had happened. He pushed Zach out of the front door of their apartment, physically pushed him out, shut the door, and locked it. Zach started beating on the door really loud in hopes that she would let him come back in. The neighbors have listened to them argue and fight all night till this happened. Now he's beating on the door. They had enough, and they called the cops. When the cops show up, he was just sitting there at the doorsteps. He stood up to greet the cops, and when he stood up, a bag of weed fell out of his pocket. So Zach was arrested. After 2 days, Addie came, posted his bail, got him out of jail. On the ride home, they were having a talk, and they decided that all of this that they're doing is just absolute madness. Zach was arrested and put in jail. He told Addie on the ride because he had $3 worth of weed in his pocket. $3 worth.
It's not even enough to roll a joint or anything.
No. And
wow, that's like just residual.
Well, they had on this talk when they were headed home, Zach had, he had come to the conclusion, I guess sobering up for a couple of days, that most of all these problems that they're currently having are being fueled from the drugs.
Yep.
And their drugs were readily available because they got free drugs from Squirrel.
Yep.
Because during the summer of 2006, when Squirrel had that car wreck, and they had gotten closer with Squirrel, helping him out because he had his legs broke. They were helping him out, doing things. He also didn't even have money to make his rent. They paid $900 to make sure he made his rent. Well, Squirrel said he was with everything they did, that they had unlimited access to his stash. If they needed something, come get it. It started out, and this was from Squirrel saying that this started out with a couple of $20 bags of Coke here and there. And as their drug-fueled fighting got worse, at one point, this had gotten up to, they were doing about $400 worth of Coke a week. Everything that was happening now, and as their relationship kept getting worse, Zach began to look for more emotional and more sexual relationships somewhere that he could find. So he began partying at a gay leather bar called the Phoenix. He was familiar, Zach, he had bartended at a couple of gay bars around New Orleans already. And so he was familiar with pretty much every bar down there anyways. So when he was partying in the Phoenix, he made friends with a real estate agent. And by late that summer, they began dating. He tried to keep this relationship quiet, but his boyfriend was one of Squirrel's clients for drugs. So Squirrel obviously found out. Squirrel goes to Zach and asks him about his sexuality. And Zach told Squirrel, well, I'm kind of bi. He said in the past, he would have some men perform oral sex on him from time to time. And he said, but don't let Addie find out. I don't need her to know. As stated before, this whole bartending community, they all know each other. So you can imagine that there's no secrets, and they're not going to hold out very long. So soon, Addie found out about it. And when she found out about it, she would ride by on her bicycle. She would ride by places where Zach was at. And as she's riding by, she would just yell things. Just as she's riding a bike, she would just be yelling, sure would be nice to have sex with a straight man one of these days. And stuff like that, just to try to berate him.
Wow.
Another time, Addie took Zach's phone, because she's livid about this. And so she took Zach's phone one time, called every woman that was in his phone and told them he had AIDS, and then deleted every contact out of his phone.
What the hell?
Yeah. With the drugs and drinking, Addie was going broke fast. One of their friends even saw Addie at a store one day trying to buy some kind of food, and she was counting just coins out of her pocket to pay for what it was. So they went and bought her some food. Shortly after that, the toilet in her apartment quit working. When she contacted the landlord about this, the landlord said, I'm not going to fix it. So Addie had to call a plumber and pay for it herself. And she told the landlord that she was just going to deduct it from her rent when she pays rent. The landlord got in an argument with her, and he threatened to file an eviction notice for her. So apparently in Louisiana, the landlord and tenant laws over there do not favor tenants whatsoever. So she knew if he files this eviction notice, It's a matter of time. She's gonna be gone. Addie also knew she didn't have the money to pay for another place to live. So she did what she always does, and she turns and leans on Zach. Zach agreed to front her the money and help her find a place to live. But when they found the place, he was going to be moving in with her. And she agreed.
Why?
Because why not? They've done it apparently 50,000 times before. Let's do it again. Zach and Addie were walking around, I guess on this apartment hunt at this point, and they saw a sign that said for rent that stood outside of 826 North Rampart. The rent was $750 a month. Zach paid 1 month's rent and 1 month's deposit to Leo Watermeyer. Post Katrina, apparently a lot of people didn't have the money for all this, the rent, everything else. It was still down of everything going on. There was still a lot of people that were very, very much struggling. Whenever Zach paid 1 month rent and 1 month's deposit, Leo handed him the keys straight away. He didn't draw up a lease or anything, handed him the keys and said, here, this place is yours. October the 4th, Addie showed up at Leo's office and demanded that he go ahead and write up a 6-month lease in her name. Don't put Zach on it. Leo wrote the lease up. 5 minutes after she left, Leo gets a call from Zach asking about the lease. Leo said, yes, I wrote the lease. And Zach said, why? Addie's kicking me out now, and I'm not on the lease, and there's nothing I can do. Leo went over to where they were at, to 826. Leo owned several apartments right here in this little complex. Leo lived right down the road, just a few houses down. And that's where his office was. Leo goes over there, and Zach and Addie are in the stairwell arguing. And so Addie turns to Leo and starts yelling to Leo about how she needs Zach gone because Zach's been cheating on her with a man. And Leo thought to himself, what kind of people are in here that's going to just start airing out this kind of stuff? You don't even know me. You haven't even been here a day, really, and you're airing out all this.
That's hilarious. So I'm taking it Leo's now having second thoughts on this whole drawing up the lease.
I'd probably say he is. Zach was furious at this mainly because he had promised Lena that he was going to be taking the kids next weekend. Everything's crashing down on Zach right now. He's thinking about all of his failures. One of the big things is the embarrassment of him having to tell Lena that he doesn't have anywhere to take his kids because he just spent the money he had right now getting this apartment. He don't have money to go get a hotel room. He don't have anything else to do. He's homeless. She's kicking him out. He has nothing to do. He is just Zach is at the point now where he's backed into a corner with nothing else to do. So him and Addie are still fighting in the apartment about this. And as the thoughts of all of this come down on him at around midnight, the fighting finally turned physical. And about an hour later, Zach had enough. He clasped his hands around Addie's neck and he strangled her to death. Zach wrote in Addie's journal, on the morning of Thursday, October the 5th, she had stolen this apartment. Ask Leo Watermeyer. He'll explain that one. Tried to kick me out, then would not shut the fuck up, so I calmly strangled her. It was very quick. Then, after lusting after her and hating her and furious with himself for killing her, after sexually defiling the body a few times, I was posed with the question of how to dispose of the corpse. That's what he wrote into the journal. Then he passed out in a drunken state. He woke up around 6 a.m. and he went to work again. He saw his friend there at work, and he said, me and Addie split. We had a real falling out. She packed her bags, took some of my money, and went back to North Carolina. At around 9 p.m. Thursday night, he began to clean up. He dragged her body into the bathroom, and he started to dismember her. He got a saw, and he hacked off her feet and hands and head. Then he got the diary and he wrote again. Put her head in the oven after giving her an awful haircut. He put her hands and feet in the water on the range. Then Zach wrote again in Addie's journal. Quote, I got drunker and some hours later turned off the stove, filled the tub with water, and I passed out. I was to be off all weekend, so I had plenty of time to work. Due to laziness, spent most of that time coked up and in various bars with different girls, unquote.
Wow. Right after killing and dismembering her, he goes and hooks up with more.
Killing, sexually defiling the body, then dismembering.
Yeah, that's twisted, dude.
So Zach calls Lena to bring the kids over to Matista's, where he works. When they got there, he told Jackson and Lily to run in and get all the soda and candy that they wanted. He gave Lana $600. That's what he owed her in child support at that point. And he asked her to let him fix up the new place over the week, and then the kids could come there next weekend, because they're supposed to be coming this weekend, so he's buying some time. Lena asked, wouldn't Addie make them go to a hotel? And forcefully, Zach stated back, no, Addie isn't staying at the apartment this weekend. The kids come back out of the store, handfuls of candy. They see their dad. Everybody goes upon their way. Zach goes back to 826 North Rampart, and he went back to work on Addie's body. I'm going to step back for 1 second. I didn't put this in my notes, but it's a part I read. I kind of wish I would have put it in my notes, so I'm just going to tell you the best I can remember. Before they rented 826, the guy that was living at 826 now lives in the apartment behind them. There's a little courtyard with a tree, apparently, back behind there. 826 North Rampart, second story unit above a voodoo shop. The guy that used to live in 826 said that it had bad energy or something. There was some stuff to it. So the night that Zach killed Addie, when he left for work, he left the bathroom light on. And apparently that bothered the guy that used to live there. He could see the light on the entire night, and that bothered him. And he said that he felt energy, that he felt like bad energy coming from there, and he was just kind of put off by this light being on. And this point in time, when he's talking about this energy that was going on, this is when Zach was killing Addie. And he said that as he was sitting on his balcony, that he watched some shadows dance around the tree for a little while before he went back into his apartment. So we're going to go back to the diary. Quote, Sunday night, I sawed off the rest of the arms and legs and put them into roasting pans. I stuck them in the oven and passed out. I came to 7 hours later with an awful smell emanating from the kitchen. I turned off the oven and went back to work Monday. This would be the last day I work. End quote. Another diary, and this, when I say diary entry, this is Addie's diary that he's been writing in. The next diary entry. Quote, I scared myself not by the action of strangling the woman I loved for a year and a half, but by my entire lack of remorse. So I decided to quit my job and spend the $1,500 in cash I had being happy and kill myself. End quote. He dove into bottles of Jameson, snorted thick rails of cocaine, and spent hundreds on lap dances. On Sunday, October the 8th, one of the strippers at a club he was at was took with him, and she took him home, and for 2 days, they did drugs and had wild sex. Thursday, October the 10th, he ran into Squirrel, and Squirrel asked him, "Where's Addie?" Zach said that she had tried to rip him off for a bunch of money, and then she split. Squirrel believed, sure, Addie will rip you off and take your money, but she didn't leave. He thought that this was just kind of weird, and Zach kind of blew him off about the conversation and went on about his day, but the whole leaving part, that's it. It just threw up red flags for him. October the 10th, in a Coke and whiskey haze, Zach remembered that day was his wedding anniversary with Lana. So he went to a payphone. He called Lana and he asked her, "Let's go get a drink." And Lana said, "No, I don't think that's appropriate anymore." And Zach said, "But you're still my wife. We're not divorced." Lana told him, "You have a girl and I have a man, and I don't think that we should be celebrating our marriage anymore." She hung up the phone. Back to the diary again. Quote, "Good food, good drugs, good strippers. Had a fantastic time living out my days." End quote. He chronicled Addie's slaying and the botched disposal of her body in excruciating detail, and then finally a laundry list of his life's failures. The failures of his friends, the failures of his jobs, the failures of his military career, the failures of his marriage, the failures of his love, and then at the bottom of the page, quote, "It's just about time now. The only numbers left are friends and family members, so go to work." End quote. Then he painted Lana's number on the wall above the tub. He painted "I love you" on the living room wall. So October the 17th, 2006, around 4 p.m., Zach shows up at Squirrel's house. Squirrel's passed out. Zach's standing above him, and he says, "Squirrel, get up. Let's go party." Squirrel saw Zach wearing clothes that he wore to bartend, and he wasn't scheduled to work to bartend anywhere. So this made Squirrel very suspicious. And since Zach has been on this 2-week bender at this point in time, and he had been treating everyone to shots, lap dances, $20 bags of cocaine that he gets from Squirrel, he's been living it up. All of this began right after he told Squirrel the story about Addie moving out of the apartment and going back to North Carolina. And Squirrel found that very strange because Zach and Addie had literally been inseparable since they got together in the summer months right before Hurricane Katrina. So Squirrel declined on this partying. He had had enough for now. So Zach grabbed another $20 bag of cocaine and he left, heading to the Omni Royal Orleans Hotel on St. Louis Street. When he gets there, he goes through the lobby, gets on the elevator, and goes to the 7th floor, past the penthouse suite and to the observation deck rooftop pool bar. Zach opened a tab with the bartender, and he sat down by the pool, smoking and having shots of Jameson. Zach began pacing around shortly before 8 p.m. The bartender that night was beginning to think that Zach was about to skip out on the bill because he was acting kind of suspicious. He had been drinking since about 4 p.m., so he had a substantial bill to pay. The band that was playing, Zach had talked to them right before they started playing. They was going to be playing a set till about 8 p.m. So the band quit playing, and the bartender walks over as the band's finishing up their, they finish their set and they're getting their stuff together, and the bartender walks over and he's talking to the lead singer. And he tells the lead singer that Zach skipped out on the bill. The band's lead singer remembered Zach because as they were setting up, Zach was already at the bar, had already been there drinking, and he had spoke with him. So the lead singer for the band told the bartender that as they're loading up their equipment, that he'll look for Zach, see if he finds him. He says, and as they're going into the French Quarter to the next place they're going, they'll look around for him and see if they see him. So just before 8:30, Zach downed his final drink. He got up, slowly walks over to the roof railing, and then he goes back to the pool again. Then he gets back up, he walks back to the roof railing, and then he comes back to the pool again. He does it 2 more times. And at 8:30, sharp, he steps over, leaps off the rail 5 stories down, and hits the top of the garage to his death. They know this because this is what was found on the hotel security cameras after they got a call from a guest that saw a body laying on top of the roof from the window. They called the front desk. The desk manager called 911 and reported that they had a body on the roof of the garage. The police heard the call out that a white male jumped from the roof of the Omni Royal Hotel. Detective Tom Moravich responded, and upon finding Zach's body, he remembered thinking that he had seen much worse. It's not like when somebody hits cement. Zach was laying face up. Some blood was coming out of his mouth and from his head, and his hips were twisted around just a little bit. But besides that, visibly, he wasn't really damaged that much. He said it's not like when somebody hits concrete. The coroner was checking his pockets, and when he checked his pockets, he found dog tags with all of Zach's information on it, and he found a Ziploc bag that contained the note that they found that led them to 826 North Rampart. When the police went to Leo's place at 812 North Rampart, they knocked on the door and Leo answered. The police told them that they were there about a woman's body. Leo told them there's no woman's body in my apartment, but he'll let them in. Come in and take a look around. They searched Leo's apartment. They went straight to the kitchen. They looked in the oven. They looked in the fridge. There was no body. So they looked at the note again, saw the address. Leo walked them down to 826 North Rampart. Leo took his keys out, unlocked the gate, then unlocked the door to the apartment. On the walk, they told Leo about Zach jumped off the roof, the Omni Royal, the note that led them to him. So Leo opened the gate, opened the door. The police went upstairs to a gory scene that was there. The window AC unit was set on about 60 degrees. Tom said it felt like walking into a meat locker. On the walls, he saw where Zach had spray painted messages. One reading, "Please call my wife." One reading, "I love her." One reading, "I'm a total failure. Look in the oven." On the ceiling above their bed was a note that was spray painted on the ceiling that said, "Please help me stop the pain." Then Tom went to the kitchen where a huge silver arrow was painted on the range pointing down into the oven. Tom opened the door and he saw Addie's legs charred black from cooking. They were stuffed into a tin-foil turkey pan. On top of the stove was a big deep pot. He leaned over and looked inside it, and he saw some hair, and then he saw Addie's head inside the pot. Another pot on the back burner had her hands and feet. Then, opening the refrigerator, he found a black, blood-stained garbage bag that was holding her torso. Tom was quoted saying, "In fact, we all had to take breaks outside the apartment that night. What we were seeing was inconceivable. It was like we were living inside of a movie. It was just eerie." October the 18th, Lana received a call and was asked if she was Zach's wife. She said yes, and she was told that Zach had killed Addie, Omni Royal Hotel. Upon reading the book, there is still a lot that Ethan goes over. Lana was also mad at Zach for things of where he killed himself. because she felt that he went and jumped off the roof there because that was actually a spot that he would take her and the kids to go swimming. It was like an actual staple of a place from
it had
them.
Significant meaning.
Correct.
Yeah.
And she was mad about that. She also said that she was not going to lie to the kids. And she didn't. She told the kids everything. She told the kids that Zach killed Addie. He cut her up. And that he jumped off a roof and killed himself. At the time when the kids found out about this, and this happened, I think Jackson was 10 and Lily was 8, I think. So after they found out about this, these are just a few of the things that I could remember from the book, from my memory. It's not in my notes. One of them had something to do with one of the school teachers called Lana one time. It's either a school teacher or somebody, but they asked her, did Zach eat Addie or something? Because Lily had drawn pictures of, it looked like something to do with Zach's stomach or whatever, and she would draw pictures of like Zach jumped off a roof and some different things like that.
Wow.
But that is the story of Zach and Addie, the self-proclaimed king and queen of New Orleans.
How have I never heard of this story?
I have heard it about 3 or 4 times from different people telling it, but I wanted to just try to put a little bit more information out there of what had to do with it, because the times that I've heard it told, it just sounded like, and could it have something to do with PTSD and stuff like to do with that with Zach? Sure. I mean, that could absolutely played a factor in this, but I never heard, out of the times that I've heard of, Addie was violent.
Addie was a very aggressive person.
And out of the things I see, which we're not going to know, Zach killed Addie. Zach jumped off a roof and killed himself. So whatever happened in that apartment from the time of when Leo went over and they were arguing in the stairwell until Zach killed Addie, we don't know what happened. Was there a fight? Was there... what could have been the the end all? We know what Zach told us.
Let me tell you what
the
I
diary
think.
Entries.
Here's what I think. I think when a person is in a toxic relationship, very toxic relationship, some relationships that are toxic can be resolved. Yes. When a person's in a toxic relationship like this, and they know it's toxic and they know they can't get out of it because they do truly love that person, but there's also a part of their brain that's telling them, I know this isn't what true love is, but I have a feeling that I do love this person. Whenever it gets to the point of no return, it's like a switch in a person's brain that says, all right, this is your fight or flight. You either leave or you do whatever. And I personally, this is just me, I personally feel like he wouldn't have been able to live happy without her. He wouldn't live in happy with her. So what was his point in living? And he had an extreme amount of guilt for killing her. But at the same time, it wasn't enough guilt there, at least not immediately, because, he went and drank, got drunk, got high, had sex with other women. It's almost like he knew what he did was messed up. He shouldn't have done it. But at the same time, he didn't care, because I feel like he might have had this contemplated for a very long time. He was just waiting.
Might have, but he even made the comment in there that's what, through his quote in the diary, was it wasn't so much the thing that scared him about this was not he killed her. The thing that scared him was he had no remorse for what was done.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
he might not have had remorse, no, but I guarantee he did have some guilt about it.
Possibly.
I guarantee it.
So,
but at the same time, I mean, if you're stuck in a loop, which is what they were, stuck in a damn loop. I don't know. It's a very interesting case.
This has actually been one of, like I said, I've heard this case told, I think 3 times, and I know the entire story, but every single time when somebody tells it and I stumble across it, I listen to it again. It's just, it's been one of those cases for me that's always been very interesting. But this is the one time that I've went into reading Shake the Devil Off, and the detail through the book. I mean, I'm probably pretty much done with this case now. I don't know if I'd listen to it again from somebody else at this point, but I wanted to tell it too.
I'm glad you did. I really am, Brent. I really enjoyed this episode. I've really enjoyed the story. I've really enjoyed it.
I'm glad you did.
I've got an interesting coming up.
Do you?
I'm sure you've heard of him.
So you gonna tell us, or you're just gonna leave us out there?
I'm sure you've heard of him.
Okay. We shall see. We shall see.
I'm sure you have. He was a big guy.
An episode like this one that I just discussed, we will say that just like Zach, he was military, been through the war and stuff, been through war and stuff like that, and probably dealing with things. And some of these episodes like this also, that's just, people's got to know that you can go, I mean, if you need to talk to somebody, go freaking talk to somebody. Counseling and stuff like that is out there for people. If it's something that you need to reach out for it. You don't have to jump off a building.
And don't let it get to the point to where Zach got.
Correct. I mean, there's time and time again that this
there's
thing.
No shame in going and talk to somebody.
No, not at all. Because there's time and time again throughout the things they went through where this could have had a different ending. Very, very much could have had a different ending.
Very much so.
We are glad that you stopped by, listened to the story. If this is part 2, then we're glad you're here for part 2 as well. Don't forget to like, subscribe, join, do all the stuff.
Patreon.
I'm trying to remember to say those. I'm trying my best to remember to just say those stuff. It is appreciated. Even if we forget to say, hey, we appreciate you, we appreciate you.
Absolutely.
And even if it's just like Patreon, there's a free member tier on there. That helps. It really does help. And if it's free, it's something to get on there. It's something that you can see other news. It's just another avenue. And that kind of stuff helps. And we appreciate you joining that stuff and actually helping us do this.
We enjoy the engagement as well. We enjoy reading comments. We enjoy listening to what other people have to say. I will say that the merchandise are coming along really well right now. We've narrowed it down through Patreon. We had a poll up on Patreon for logos, and I think we've gotten the ones that we're going to stick with right now for merchandise. Am I correct on that, Brent?
Yeah, there'll be several different ones to choose from. As soon as we have it out there to go in there, and anybody wants merchandise, we'll have several of them that you can choose from. All right, Brent. Well, I enjoyed this morning's episode, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you for stopping by. This is Strange Embers. Good night. Day? Question mark? Good one. Bye. I need to go take care of that.